As John Hansen would like to say, Christian Watson's body seems to not want him to be able to play professional football. It looks like a high ankle sprain. Fortunately, he avoided a fracture, but he is an injured reserve candidate. And let me tell you about this guy, man. He hasn't been playing full time, but every time Dontayvion Wicks has gotten an opportunity to play full-time NFL football, he has done nothing but produce. I know garbage time had a lot to do with it. Jordan Love looked very rusty coming back from the knee injury, but Dontayvion Wicks scores 2 touchdowns. I mean, I have to imagine, Tom, this guy is going to be at the forefront of people's pickup lists for fantasy football in Week 5.
Yeah, he's going to be getting a large opportunity here moving forward. That was kind of the problem with this whole receiving core. Unfortunately, it comes at the expense of Christian Watson, but it's going to clear everything up for everybody here. Even Romeo Doubs, he's sitting 40% owned in Yahoo leagues. Certainly another guy that you could pick up and potentially play here because it kind of clears up the whole situation here.
What? Why are you shaking your head? You're welcome.
It's the Week 5 waiver wire show here at FantasyPoints.com and the Fantasy Points YouTube channel. Tom, I had to pick up a waiver wire shelter this week. I have been displaced by Hurricane Helene, and I'm one of the lucky ones in the South. I was able to get to a pet-friendly hotel in Marietta, Georgia. As a matter of fact, as we're talking right now, the Braves-Mets wild doubleheader to settle the NL's final playoff spots is going on right now. You could hear the stadium from this hotel room, but we had to get out of Greenville, South Carolina, where our neighborhood still doesn't have power. Thoughts to everybody who is affected, displaced by this incredibly historic and terrible storm. I'm one of the lucky ones. I was able to get me, my wife, and, hold on, my 2 dogs out of there, and we were able to find some shelter. But it's fortunate. I'm fortunate to be able to talk to you, Tom, about Week 5. I was able to monitor some of the NFL action, not as well as I could on a normal weekend, but I was able to monitor some of the NFL action. And obviously, the biggest news of the week is the friendly fire. Patrick Mahomes going low to try to make a tackle. It looks like he took out Rashee Rice. Now, as we are talking right now, Tom, we don't know the extent of Rashee Rice's injury.
Yeah.
Whatever the case, Andy Reid said on the broadcast, it doesn't look good. We're expecting Rashee Rice to be out for an extended period of time, if not the season. At the very least, he's going to miss at least this week. But here's the problem. Yeah. The Chiefs are kind of right back where they started at the wide receiver position. They go out this offseason. They acquire Hollywood Brown. He's out for the year. Rashee Rice might be out for the year. Xavier Worthy's already rostered in every fantasy football league. It's kind of fool's gold, in my opinion, especially with how Mahomes really hasn't been putting up numbers. It's kind of fool's gold to go and anticipate any of these Chiefs coming up, stepping up, and putting up big numbers for your fans.
No, it's probably going to be mostly on Travis Kelce's plate here moving forward. So I would not spend a waiver priority or spend any fab budget on these Chiefs wide receivers. If we were playing in a really deep league, I guess I would go Juju Smith-Schuster. You'd think that maybe he gets some of those, placed from the slot a little bit, maybe gets some of those design targets. And he has made a play or two early in the season, but that's maybe the only place I would look at the wide receiver position for the Chiefs. So, but the good news is we got some pretty good wide receivers and some young wide receivers that started to emerge this weekend because of some other injury situations across the league.
And that obviously is, unfortunately, as John Hansen would like to say, Christian Watson's body seems to not want him to be able to play professional football. It looks like a high ankle sprain. Fortunately, he avoided a fracture, but he is an injured reserve candidate. And let me tell you about this guy, man. He hasn't been playing full time, but every time Dontayvion Wicks has gotten an opportunity to play full-time NFL football, he has done nothing but produce. I know garbage time had a lot to do with it. Jordan Love looked very rusty coming back from the knee injury, but Dontayvion Wicks scores 2 touchdowns. I mean, I have to imagine, Tom, this guy is going to be at the forefront of people's pickup lists for fantasy football in week 5.
Yeah, he's going to be getting a large opportunity here moving forward. That was kind of the problem with this whole receiving core. Unfortunately, it comes at the expense of Christian Watson, but it's going to clear everything up for everybody here. Even Romeo Doubs, he's sitting 40% owned in Yahoo leagues. Certainly another guy that you could pick up and potentially play here because it kind of clears up the whole situation here. We'll still see Malik Heath and Bo Melton mixed in a little bit, but it's going to be a tighter rotation at the wide receiver spot for the Packers here. And we saw Jordan Love back in the lineup, very pass heavy. Obviously, the script playing from behind played a big part of that, but they're going to be throwing it a lot more moving forward than they were with Malik Willis. And every time Wicks has gotten an opportunity to play significant snaps, he seems to make plays. So if you lost Rashee Rice here, at least for the next couple of weeks, Wicks could be a solid fill-in, and maybe he starts to run with the position a little bit. And whenever Christian Watson comes back, maybe he has a little bit tougher time getting on the field. So Wicks would be the top of my priority list at wide receiver if I lost Rice.
And let's go to one more wide receiver, a young receiver in an emerging offense who has a real big opportunity right now. And it's only an emerging offense because the young quarterback got benched. Bryce Young benched in Carolina. Andy Dalton comes out and has played exceptionally well, at least in terms from a fantasy perspective, what we do. Everybody's Deontay Johnson bags are saved by Andy Dalton. But with Adam Thielen on IR, Tom, can Xavier Legette, the rookie from South Carolina, can he produce at a wide receiver 3 level? He looked fantastic this past weekend.
Yeah, the matchup was pretty good against the Cincinnati Bengals, and there was some question with how big of a role would he have, and he stepped into a starter's role with Deontay Johnson, 87% snap share. And he was he trailed right behind Deontay Johnson in targets with 10 of them, 25% target share. And he certainly took advantage of it, scored a touchdown, scored 19.6 fantasy points in a PPR here. So this was a guy, our Brett Whitefield, compared to A.J. Brown during the pre-draft process, is one of these height, weight, speed X receivers. So this is a big opportunity for him. And it's the Panthers. I mean, they're 1-3. They should be looking to get some of their younger players opportunities to play. So this could be the start of some big things here for him. So loved what we saw from him in his first real big chance to play. Matchup's going to get a little tougher this week against Jalen Johnson and the Bears this week, but certainly a lot of positives to take away from his first major opportunity in week 4.
I want to remind everybody that we are not going to talk about every viable waiver wire option here on the Fantasy Points YouTube channel because Tom Brawley covers nearly 100 players every week up at FantasyPoints.com. If you use code YouTube25, get 25% off a discounted subscription. It's already discounted because we're a quarter of the way into the season. We'll get an extra 25% off on top of that. All you need is our base NFL standard or NFL premium package to access the waiver wire article. And we have plenty more wide receivers for you to check out there. But Tom, let's go back to Kansas City. Because while a wide receiver might not emerge for them, could an old familiar face end up being a game changer for fantasy? I'm talking, of course, about Kareem Hunt, who was effectively functioned as the Chiefs' #1 running back after Carson Steele fumbled on the opening possession for Kansas City. Kareem Hunt knows the offense, obviously has experience putting up big numbers for Andy Reid. Certainly not the same player he was in years past. In many ways, you could compare him to Ezekiel Elliott with the Cowboys right now in that regard. But this is an opportunity on an offense that he knows until Isaiah Pacheco comes back in, well, at this point, at least over a month.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more time here for Pacheco to come back. Obviously, I would think maybe first week in November at the earliest, but it could be much longer than that. But Kareem Hunt took advantage of his opportunity here. Carson Steele, unfortunately, fumbled on his first carry. I thought he looked pretty good in week 3. So They're going with the reliable guy here in Kareem Hunt, and he took advantage of it. But I do think this backfield could be a little bit of an annoyance here moving forward here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire could be back, could start practicing this week, and I feel like Andy Reid's going to kind of use the hot hand approach here. So I would pick up Kareem Hunt, but go in knowing full well that this could turn out to be one of those situations where, maybe Carson Steele comes back, has a strong performance here in the next couple of weeks. But I like your comparison there with Ezekiel Elliott. But Kareem Hunt, I thought, looked a little bit better than that. And he's certainly at the top of the depth chart for now. And this is an offense that's really struggling to find weapons right now with Rashee Rice and Pacheco out. So maybe Hunt can take over a bigger piece of this offense than anticipated here, with Carson Steele opening the door for him.
This is as bad a fantasy season through 4 weeks as I can remember. I'm going to be completely honest, and I'm sure a lot of people who have made this their hobby for the last decade, 5 years, however long you've been playing, would probably agree. And a lot of that coalesces, Tom, around how awful the tight end position has been. Getting just a viable starter has been like pulling teeth. Did one emerge with Jordan Love returning to the lineup in Green Bay in Tucker Kraft, who's available in virtually every Yahoo league? I think he's rostered in only 4%, 5% of Yahoo leagues. 6 for 53 and a touchdown. He did lose a fumble, but if you're putting up 6 for 53 and a touchdown, I don't give a crap if you lost a fumble. I want to see what you can do for my fantasy team with those kind of numbers. Tucker Kraft did it in that game. He has the inside edge over Luke Musgrave.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a reversal from last year. Luke Musgrave was the higher picked player in the second round. Tucker Kraft was a third round pick, and Musgrave played ahead of Kraft for much of the season. But then Musgrave picked up an injury, missed a lot of time. And then in the postseason, Kraft was playing ahead of him. And that has continued into the season where Kraft is ahead of Musgrave. And it couldn't really tell. It didn't make much of a difference in the season opener, but we saw it start to pay dividends in week 4. It was a wonky game script, as we said, with Wicks, with them chasing points. But if you're the number 1 tight end here, we've seen some moments here with these tight ends, and maybe he is starting to emerge a little bit. So we're looking for any help that we can get right now. Maybe Tucker Kraft, only 4% owned in Yahoo leagues. So he is widely available. If you've been, going through it with Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely or Kyle Pitts, it might be time just at least add Tucker Kraft here to your bench to see if he starts to emerge. And it's related to that Christian Watson situation a little bit too. Some of those targets will be taken off the field, so maybe they have to go somewhere else, and maybe Tucker Kraft gets an extra target or two here for the next month.
Well, Tom, basically the quarterback position's been sort of a disaster for fantasy as well. This is a higher rostered player, 31% of Yahoo leagues, but still in a league with a shallow bench, if you start only one quarterback, Justin Fields is probably on the waiver wire. I know the Steelers lost this weekend, but based on what you saw, is Justin Fields giving his job up to Russell Wilson anytime soon?
No, and honestly, this was a loss this week for the Steelers, but this was by far the best performance that I've seen from Justin Fields. He did have one bonehead play where he took a third down sack and fumbled the ball and kind of cost them at least a chance at 3 points and gave the Colts a short field. But other than that, this was exactly what you'd want to see from Justin Fields. He was attacking down the field, checked it down whenever the top options weren't there, and he was running. He scored 2 rushing touchdowns here. So it wasn't the ideal script for the Steelers this week. They were playing from behind a lot, but it was at least it showed that he's capable of playing in some uncomfortable situations. He's been playing from ahead, really relying on his running game and his defense here through the first 3 weeks. But he was able to, keep the Steelers in this game for, all 4 quarters, on the back of his arm. And that's something that we haven't necessarily seen with the Steelers so far. So the Steelers' schedules gets a little bit tougher here over the next couple of weeks, and it's certainly in the back half of the season. So maybe bigger fantasy performances are ahead for him. The one concern, though, is this offensive line is starting to fall apart a little bit, but maybe that leads to a little bit more scrambling for Justin Fields moving forward.
Tom, I'm hoping by the next time we talk, for the Best Bet show on Wednesday. As a matter of fact, maybe I should have good friend Trey put an awful parlay together about when it's going to take to get my power restored in Greenville, South Carolina. But obviously, I'm able to make a joke about it because I was able to get my family to a hotel and talk to you about waiver wire fantasy football. To everybody affected by the hurricane, my thoughts are with you. Just a terrible, terrible situation across the Carolinas and Appalachia. But T-Bro, I'm hoping we provided at least a little bit of a distraction here. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for the Fantasy Points Waiver Wire Show on the Fantasy Points YouTube channel, and we'll talk to you next week.